Hi guys, welcome back. Employers gaslight us all the time. They threaten us, accuse us, stonewall, and delay, and then try to blame it all on us. Now, when I first started my fight, I really didn't even think about blame. I was focused on getting reasonable accommodation, which was all I ever wanted. And I figured trying to fix blame on my boss wasn't going to help me with that. So I focused all my energy on trying to resolve things with my boss. It took me a while to realize that my boss wasn't interested in resolving anything. She'd already moved on to blaming me for her choices, and NASA had her back on that. When I went to EEOC, I expected them to be more like me, focused on a resolution. So I was surprised to find out that what they were really focused on was finding out where the process went wrong and who was responsible for breaking it. In other words, who's to blame? Because whoever's to blame for breaking the process, they lose. Unfortunately, when our employer is trying to fix blame, we really can't afford to argue with them directly about it. Even if we're totally justified, it's too easy for them to spin what we're saying as us being difficult or aggressive, and use that to justify whatever they did to us. But at the same time, we also can't afford just to let our employer fix all the blame on us, because that is a big part of how EEOC is going to decide our case. So we can't argue, but we also can't stay silent. It's a catch-22. And this process is full of situations like that. The only way I found to extricate myself from them was by asking NASA lots of hard questions about what they were doing and why they were doing it. Politely, professionally, and in writing. Questions give us a voice, a way to express our concerns about what our employer is doing without compromising our case. And they also give us a chance to document the shady things our employer is doing so that later when we get to EEOC, we can show them exactly who's to blame. Today I want to share 3 examples from my case that illustrate how easy it is to pull this off and how powerful questions can be. And the first is one you've heard about before, when NASA's diversity manager threatened to put me on a PIP to make it easier for my boss to fire me. That was all kinds of shady, so I'd have been totally justified in arguing with her about it. You can't put me on a PIP because my performance has never been subpar. And anyway, what gives you the right to discipline me at all because I don't work for you, and a bunch of other things like that I could have said. And I think that's what she expected me to say. But I didn't. But on the way back to my office, I realized that I had to document the threat somehow. So I sent the diversity manager an email asking a lot of questions about what it was that she planned to do. Hey, just now in your office you told me you were going to put me on a PIP, and I have a few questions that I need to ask you about that. Can you direct me to the policy that allows you to put me on a PIP when my performance has always been exceptional? Can you share what gives you the authority to discipline me when I don't work for you? Can you walk me through exactly how NASA decided that putting me on a PIP is an appropriate reaction to my complaint of discrimination? And besides putting me on a PIP, what else do you plan to do to address my complaint? I had a lot more questions like that, and all those questions took me out of the catch-22 and put them in it. They couldn't answer honestly without admitting they were trying to retaliate. And they couldn't just ignore me, then put me on a PIP, because that'd look like retaliation too. And if they'd lied about it, I'd have been able to pull any policy they cited and prove what it really said. All they could really do without shooting themselves in the foot was back off on their threat. So that's what they did, and nobody ever mentioned putting me on a PIP again. Another example is when my boss called me into her office one day and told me that she was still holding me accountable for a project that she'd taken away from me and assigned to another person. If I'd tried to insert myself into another person's project, that could have gotten really ugly really fast. But on the other hand, she was holding me accountable. It was another catch-22. So I emailed her a question. Hey, just now in your office you told me that you're still holding me accountable for this project that isn't mine, and I don't know what that means, so can you please clarify what your expectations of me are? She didn't answer, but I was out of the catch-22. And one more example. When I first requested reasonable accommodation, NASA kept asking me for more and more medical information, They'd ask for something, I'd give it to them, and then they'd ask me for one more thing, and that went on for a while. I couldn't afford to just tell them no because they have a right to ask for reasonable medical documentation. But I was getting concerned by all the delays. Every time I had to give them something else, it delayed my process by at least a week. So I decided to email them some questions. I want to give you the information you need, but this piecemeal process isn't working. So can you give me some written guidance that spells out everything you need so that I can forward that to my doctor? Within minutes, they email me back. Oh, that won't be necessary. We'll just go with what we have. Time after time after time, I extricated myself from NASA's catch-22s by asking the right questions in the right way. There's a little bit of an art to it, but once you get the hang of it, it makes everything about this process so much easier. And it's also a lot of fun. So happy questioning. I'll see you guys next time. Hope and take care and hang in. Fight smart,